All right, so before we begin this problem, a couple things you need to know about inequality equations that have fractions. So step one, both fractions are attached to the variable, so we have to combine them to have like terms. Step two, inverse of coefficient. We want to separate the fraction from the variable. That way we can have x is greater than or equal to or less than or equal to whatever its value is. Step three, when dividing across the the inequality sign with a negative number, the inequality symbol flips to the other direction. So right now it's facing to the right, the greater than or equal to. After we divide with a negative number across it, it's going to flip back to the left. Step four, when dividing two fractions, KFC, keep, flip, change. Step five, simplify and reduce. So let's go ahead and get started here. So before we can combine fractions, we have to have common denominators. So both of these numbers can multiply into 24. So I'm going to write two denominator-only fractions with 24, and then I'm going to go up to the top and I'm going to think, how many times does 6 go into 24? And of course we know it's 4 times. How many times does 8 go into 24? We know it's 3 times. So I'm going to multiply the numerator by 4 on the left. So 4 times 4 is 16. And of course we know this is negative. And 3 times 2 for the middle fraction. And that's going to be 6. So we have 6 24ths. I'm going to put my variable in for both of those. And we know we're supposed to add them together. And of course they're still greater than or equal to 6.5. So now I'm going to combine the fractions. So basically I am going to do negative 16 plus 6. And of course that equals negative 10. And of course it's still over 24, and it still has the variable x on it. And it's still greater than or equal to 6.5. So now what I'm going to do is I know that negative 10 24ths is multiplying x. So I want to get that fraction to the other side of the inequality sign, so I'm going to do the opposite of what it's doing. It's multiplying, so I'm going to divide it across both sides. Now when I divide it right here, negative 10 over 24ths, that gives me my 0 pair. So now I don't have the negative 10 over 24 on it. All I have on this side is x. So if I am going to divide 6.5, and I'm going to divide it by negative 10 over 24, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to make that negative 6.5 a fraction. So any whole number that you want to make a fraction, you put over 1. Now if it has a decimal in it, for every decimal point you have, you add 1 0 to the 1. So that becomes, oops, erased a little bit too much. That becomes 65 over 10 divided by negative 10 over 24. So first off, KFC, keep. So I'm going to keep 65 over 10. I'm going to flip that negative 10 over 24 to negative 24 over 10. And then, last but not least, I'm going to change the division sign to a multiplication sign. All right, so now what I have to do is multiply straight across. So what I have to do is 65. Let's put that somewhere else. I don't want it over by the answer. So I have 65 times 24. And so I'm going to go ahead and multiply that out. And 65 times 24, that's 20. That'll be 24, 26, 0, 10, 13, 0, 6, 5, 1. So I know my numerator is going to be 1,560, and that's going to be over 10 times 10, which is 100, and of course it is still negative. So whenever you divide, now to simplify, which is step 5, whenever you divide a number by any number with 1 followed by zeros, 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, you simply move the decimal point over the number of zeros that you have. So 100 has 2 zeros, so I know that when I divide negative 1560 by 100, it's going to end up being 15.60 because there's 2 zeros in 100, so we move the decimal spot over 2 spaces. Now, remember I said we have to flip the inequality symbol. So the inequality symbol, after I put the negative sign, is going to be flipped the other direction. So now it is x is less than or equal to negative 15.6. All right, that's a lot of work for one question. But moving on, question 22. All right, so Tony and Manuel were trimming the branches of a tree. Tony was using a foot ladder and Manuel was using a 26-foot ladder. Both ladders were leaning against a tree at a 50-degree angle, creating similar triangles. All right, so what we have to do is we have to find D, the missing angle. Now, first off, there was a misprint on this problem, so the actual measurements is going to be 16 feet on this side, 24 feet on this side, and 6 feet on the bottom. All right, so now we need to find what is D, the distance that Manuel's ladder was away from the tree. So to do this, I'm going to do a proportion. All right, so I'm going to put corresponding side over corresponding side. So first I'm going to start with 16. So I'm going to write 16, and it corresponds to the same side, which is the hypotenuse of the other triangle. So 16 over 24. Now I'm going to put the other number that I know, 6, because up on top here, I have the smaller ladder, which means only on the top row can I put the smaller ladder numbers. On the bottom row, I have the larger ladder's numbers, so only the larger ladder's numbers can go there. So I'm going to put 6 over here, and of course, I'm going to put our variable D right there, and I'm saying that they basically equal each other. So I'm going to cross multiply, and 16 times D is 16D. And that is equal to 24 times 6. So 24 times 6 is 144.